Nuganomics with David Toulis.
I argue for local economy for the reason that the defense of national economy and national government here, especially as Memorial Day is coming, is, well, the rationale is indefensible. The ideas, the excuses which sustain the empire, which sustain the war-making capacity, which sustain the reasonings behind a police department in Georgia, which set off a bomb in a baby's crib and then denied responsibility repeatedly. The same rationale that keeps up the empire, keeps that child with his burns, with no liability allowed, is a system that's not sustainable. It is dysfunctional, and that's why I argue again for local economy, because it doesn't seem to be that the national system, with its lies, its legalities, is redeemable. There's no redemption there. There's no way that we can fix the problem from here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. And so when we give attention to the national scene or even the international one, it's always with the perspective of what does that have to do with us here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County? Who cares in light of life here? Well, we should care, and I think because there are so many bad things happening in the national sector that we need to not have hope for repair there, not in candidates, not in political parties, not in promises, not in new funding mechanisms, not in promises made by others to us or to the national government. And so I have really no sense of hope for the national economy, for getting back the country, as a lot of people like to say. We need to get back our country. We need to take back what's ours. And there are things in this direction with which I'm sympathetic. I understand why people say them, and I've said them myself before. But I think what has to happen is, as we understand, for example, why we have atmospheric geoengineering over Chattanooga. We can't stop it. People don't even believe that it's happening, and I bring it up. I bring it up because I want people to realize that the solution is elsewhere. I'm hopeless in one sense, so that I might be very hopeful and optimistic, and maybe a little idealistic in another context, in a place where I can have some benefit and confer some value to the future, where I can maintain buying power, if you will, whereas in national economy, in the skies that are government owned now, I see no prospect for repair and no ending of what you could call this kind of a scandal, right? The government scandals, and so what I have in mind of doing is explaining why, well, maybe why there's such interest in an essay that's come out today at Nuganomics.com. My name is David Toulis, and I'm the editor of Nuganomics.com. And what I do when I cover the environment, I'm focusing my coverage in a well-neglected area, and it's with a very important scientific method, which is to say observation. I open my eyes and I look at something happening, and I say, there's something here that's irregular. And we need to find out what this irregularity is. Is there an evil effect on people here? Why is this irregularity happening? And is there possibly an explanation behind it? Well, Dane Wigington is an environmentalist. He's a Green and lives in Shasta County, California, and has been working for about 10 years on what is, I would like to suggest, the most important and yet readily overlooked environmental story, and that is the use of jet aircraft to attempt to modify the climate. Now, my understanding is that climate modification has been going on for probably 40 or 50 years, at least since the 1960s, when it was a federal policy under President Kennedy, who said, someday we will control the weather. This was a very bold statement, I think, made before the United Nations. And Wigington says that he's of a school of thought that weather management, if you will, or what's also called rather hubristically solar radiation management. I think it's the word management really implies kind of the wrong thing. And some professors and academicians in this field don't like the term SRM. Again, that's solar radiation management, because it implies that men can really manage the weather. Well, they really can't. The National Academy of Sciences, in its book that came out in February on the idea of a mass chemtrailing program, uses the more modest term albedo modification, and that simply is describing reflectivity. Reflectivity is albedo, and you have albedo, say, in the Alps or in the Rockies, when the snow is on the ground and it deflects light back into space and heat, theoretically, right? And clouds are also increase the albedo. So if you have more clouds, theoretically, you have more albedo, and you increase the reflectivity of the planet, if such could be measured by, 1% or 2% or, 0.5%. And so the program that's in effect now, despite what environmentalists say as they sleep over their, over their eyes, is a program to modify the weather with untold costs. And the scientific literature about this, especially the National Academy of Sciences, says, well, we really can't do this because we don't know the results and we don't know the effects. And we should study very carefully the idea of jet aircraft laying down smoke patterns to create cloud cover. This hasn't been done. It hasn't been done, hasn't been tested. We're not sure that it's a good idea, but well, let's tentatively discuss it, right? That's what this kind of trial balloon book did. It was one of two books. The other volume focused on mitigation, which is to say, can we cut back on the emissions of smoke and carbon dioxide from ground operations, right, from factories, from highways, and so on. That was one book which I didn't read, but I did read the one about stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, chemtrailing as it's commonly called. But I try not to use that word because it sounds like I'm making an argument against it, right? And I'm trying to get you, my listener, to see that there is some theoretical benefit in it, even though you are, because of SAG here over Hamilton County, you're breathing every day poison, metallic poisons, which are in the size of nanoparticles outside the regulatory authority of the EPA and the EPA's agent in the county, which is to say Bob Colby is the name of the director, and that is the Chattanooga-Hamilton County Air Pollution Control Bureau, which makes a big deal out of burning some leaves, right? You have to have a permit to burn some leaves, and it'll touch you if you burn them without a permit, and the inspector finds you out there in the backyard. On the other hand, it has no interest at all officially in this official air pollution, which deposits over the county aluminum, strontium, and barium. Now, that the readings in the county of these materials, which are at every sensor, there are about 8 or 9 sensors, and these materials are always there, as Bob says, in trace amounts. That's nothing to worry about, just trace amounts. And but that comes from somewhere, and my theory is that it is part of the aerosolization, the injection of cloud-making material in the high atmosphere. That's 40,000 feet. It's the lower levels of the stratosphere. Well, if you go to Nuganomics.com, your eyes will throb in looking at my gallery. I publish, whenever I write about this, I try to publish a gallery with local photographs and photographs of taken by concerned skywatchers elsewhere, right? Knoxville, Bristol, Tennessee, Nashville, and then UK. I've got a couple of pictures in Germany of just remarkable injections of what are called negative emissions, right? Negative emissions are the healthy pollution that is supposed to save the planet from the pretended evil emission, which I guess would be black emissions, right? From steam plants run by TVA and utilities and automobiles that don't have their catalytic converters functioning properly. Well, my name is David Toulis, and our show is Nuganomics.com. And Dane Wigington says in his essay at Nuganomics.com, the site that is not a popular site, but that's because it's directed at people who matter. And there are not many of those. There are just a few people who matter in the end. And they're the ones who have a sphere of influence that is subtle and not observable many times, and people who are not necessarily office holders, right? They're not office holders. They are common people like me and like you. It's a kind of high-end, intelligent-oriented website, and you have to be interested in hot topics to go there. And so what I do here is I kind of boil things down, and I know you're not going to go there. You, my listener, don't have time. You're busy. So I'm going to give you the best work that we have here at Nuganomics.com. The number 4 show. The number 4 show at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio is number 4, and I'm sweating. My collar is creased with a dark line of my perspiration, which I'm just trying to get ahead. But I've got Russell the Kid at number 1 at Digital Drive at noon, covering the tech sector, and the number 2 spot. Well, I think that's held by Sean Hannity. We're the Sean Hannity station. NASCAR, Laura Ingraham. And a great lineup of stars. At nighttime, we've got George Noory. And the number 3 spot, edging me out, is Tex with Cowboy Up with Tex at 6 every evening. A really down-home show of a man who's just unhappy with the way things are going, and he wants public officials to cowboy up. Well, they're not going to cowboy up, and we both have this sense of dismay if we have expectation in their direction. Don't have those expectations. I guess is kind of what I'm saying. Even though we, of course, have them. We have them in one sense, but we should not pin our hopes in princes. The story about the bomb in the baby's crib is from a very important writer named William Norman Grigg. His essay is at LewRockwell.com. That's the number 1 anti-state, anti-war, pro-market website probably in the world. And the baby's name is Boo Boo. Boo Boo Funissavan, and he was a year and a half old or so. And Charles Long in Habersham County in Georgia threw what's called a destructive device by the ATF, and it detonated in this boy's crib with a 2,000-degree flash. And a flashbang is something that blinds people and disorients them so that they can come in, so that the stormtroopers can come in and kill them without any danger to themselves. Well, there's a defense presented by Habersham County Sheriff Joey Terrell, and these are available. If you go to LewRockwell.com, you can read the story. It's called "Pity the Poor Stormtroopers, Baby Boo Boo Ambushed Them," which explains how it is that liability shifts away from state actors. And this is a remarkable thing. And because liability has shifted away, just by the way, liability has shifted away from state actors such that we can have a dysfunctional medical system with insurance paralyzing medicine, right? That's what happened. And what do we need to do? Well, we need to have Obamacare too, right? We have to have Obamacare creates a disaster. Well, that just invites more reform, right? More ersatz, phony reform. In light of that, the problems that the medical field is going through, just by the way, there are entrepreneurs here in Chattanooga who are leading the way out, and they're using local economy principles. And the one I want to mention just here quickly is David Redd, Dr. David Redd. He runs Quick Surge, which is a walk-in surgery clinic in the Publix shopping center in North Shore, and he takes care of you if you have a mole, a skin tag, a cut, a laceration. He doesn't take insurance. It's cash only, which is to say check or credit card or Federal Reserve notes, the green rectangles that I hope you, my listener, are using more and more of instead of plastic. And he publishes his prices online. It's hassle-free and it's pain-free. And his prices are well below, often they're perfect for you, even if you have insurance, right? Because you got that deductible. Yes, he's out of network. Of course he's out of network, but you need to find your way out. And because national government doesn't take responsibility, it always can blame other people for the faults that it creates in the marketplace, right? The dysfunctions, it always says, well, it's the insurance company's fault, or it's the American people's fault. It never takes responsibility. Well, Norman Grigg says that that's what happens in this case with this boy. And the family was given a $964,000 settlement from the National Fire Insurance Company with $538,000 for medical expenses of this explosion that blew off part of this boy's face and one tooth. And but the family is still facing at least $500,000 in current medical expenses. A figure, he says, that will be matched or eclipsed by future costs incurred by Boo Boo's ongoing medical treatment. Well, the state's reply is typical. And when you think about this case, I want you to think about the skystriping situation over Chattanooga, which is remarkable and has been covered, and which I make an effort of covering, because even though people at church sometimes look askance at me and kind of maybe don't want to deal with me, I am following my journalistic gut on this, and I'm doing my reading and my research in the literature, and as widely as I can on this topic of science, right? Well, the bomb that the flashbang that went off in the baby's crib was part of reasonable actions by the officer, who was in compliance with established, quote, policies and procedures, and he is thus protected by, quote, qualified immunity. What qualified immunity applies not just to this cop in a raid that was at the wrong house, a raid prompted by a tip from a petty informant, right, a petty criminal informant, that there had been a $50 marijuana transaction at this house. Wasn't even true. And so from the perspective of the state, the assailants in this raid are innocent of all liability, even though they did everything wrong. The yard was strewn with big wheel tricycles and things like that. And the reply filed on behalf of Sheriff Joey's deranged deputies, he says, will serve as a legal clinic for other departments involved in similar Soviet-grade atrocities in the future. Clearly, this writer is one who likes inflammatory language. Well, the men were searching for a warrant for a man named Vanis Doneteva, also from the same part of the world, and he was arrested a few hours later in broad daylight in a very unremarkable fashion. Right? There was a midnight raid on this family who were they lost a house in Wisconsin, so they'd moved in with relations and were there temporarily, and the flashbang grenade exploded as the officer tossed it through the open door. He didn't see where it was going. He just said, well, I'm going to throw it in there, and if there are people in there, they're going to be so terrified and disoriented by this explosion that we can seize them without any danger to ourselves. Well, here's what happened. When the bomb went off in the baby's crib, the dad was badly damaged. He was badly injured by being manhandled. And there was a screaming child in the crib, and the parents were not allowed to see this child. They couldn't go over to see it. Why? Officer safety, right? Officer safety. And so to cover for this abduction, one of the officers did what comes naturally to highly trained police officers. He hastily improvised a self-serving lie, and the lie pertained to a tooth dislodged, and that was why there was blood. And the parents were told, well, he just had a tooth injury. Well, it wasn't. The parents didn't find out what had happened to their baby until after they got to the hospital and were told he's in a coma. He's in a coma. The toddler had, quote, according to the lawsuit, severe blast burn injuries on the face and chest, a complex laceration of the nose, upper lip, and face, 20% of the upper right lip missing. The external nose was separated from the underlying bone, and a large avulsion burn onto the chest with a resulting left pulmonary contusion and sepsis. And the police said the photograph of this boy, which you can see online, did not accurately depict the injuries allegedly sustained by the infant, right, who was wrong to have gotten in the way of police business. He had only himself to blame, as it were, from police business. Well, here's another quote. Here's why the police should not be held responsible for this damage to this boy, according to William Norman Grigg, quoting from the police defense statement. The doctrine here are the doctrines. The assumption of risk. Okay, if you're in the way of a police raid, you assume risk. Failure to avoid consequences. The baby failed to avoid the explosion. Latches. Okay, latches is a doctrine which says effectively if you sit on your rights, you cannot exercise them. In other words, you have to act quickly once you know your rights are violated. That's a very important doctrine because if you sit on your rights, if you sit on your rights and don't act to protect them, you are effectively acquiescing, right? There's kind of acquiescence. So the family, of course, took too long to sue. And also failure to mitigate damages, and then last clear chance and sudden emergency. So the bomb went off because it was a sudden emergency. And Grigg says, if you live anywhere within the claimed jurisdiction of a federally subsidized Einsatzgruppe, which is, of course, the SS, like the Mountain Judicial Circuit Narcotics Criminal Investigation and Suppression Team, then you are fair game for the after midnight military raid. And you have only yourself to blame when it happens. Well, if you go to Nuganomics.com, look at the pictures. Look at the pictures and ask yourself, the people, and read the story by Dane Wigington. He goes very far in his analysis. I tend not to go that far because I'm trying to be more of a journalist and less of an editorialist, but he has been making these arguments for some time. And the idea is that we have weather modification, which is part of, you might say, part of imperialism. It is part of the imperium. And we are thinking about Memorial Day, Monday, and we are subject to an imperium. And there is no requirement for personal responsibility. The skystriping program is in military jurisdiction. It is under national necessity. It is under emergency. Have not we heard numerous times in the past 5 years, federal officials saying we face an emergency. So there is this idea of necessity, which allows people to, let's say, burn a house, to blow up a house to prevent a fire from spreading. That's the doctrine of necessity, and that description comes out of Gibson's suits in Chancery here in Tennessee. Well, do we trust them? No, I don't trust them. That's why I'm confident in local economy in the free market, because here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, we can do things fully conscious of these things over there, right? Fully conscious of their doctrines of qualified immunity. They may have that, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to work hard here with our families, with marriage, with savings, with gaining liquidity, with starting our own businesses, with going to church. That too. This is David Toulis, and our show is Nooganomics.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If you have the DT, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia, you need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook, open Sunday. Cell Surgeon, we bring your phone back to life. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas, every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. You do not have to be living with constant pain. You need to make the choice today to enjoy a revitalized body. You deserve to live a better pain-free life. And Dr. Ross can help. At Ross Chiropractic, failure is not an option. For over 40 years, Dr. Ross, a graduate of the prestigious Palmer College of Chiropractic, prided himself in helping and healing. The Ross method of chiropractic care is unique in developing a treatment designed just for you. And Ross Chiropractic makes this promise to you. If he believes that he can help relieve your pain, he will guide you to another health practitioner to assist you. Feel better now. You owe it to yourself. You really do. Call Dr. Ross now at 954-9591. That's 954-9591. And visit Dr. Ross at 7405 Shallowford Road, Suite 320. Ross Chiropractic, helping your body heal itself. Because when your spine's in line, you will feel fine. Call 954-9591. That's 954-9591 for Ross Chiropractic.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Officials are asking for help in the hunt for a suspected killer. Darren Dillon Wendt wanted in the deaths of 4 people at a Washington mansion.
We have information that we believe Mr. Wendt is currently in the Brooklyn, New York area.
D.C. Chief of Police Kathy Lanier, officials believe Wendt ordered pizza while he held family captive. They say they linked DNA from the crust to him. The president's trade agenda advancing to a full Senate debate by a vote of 62 to 38, and the final Late Show with David Letterman getting a sign-off from 4 U.S. presidents and some of his favorite celebs.
Here's Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Thanks for letting me take part in another hugely disappointing series finale.
Letterman thanked his staff, his crew, his wife Regina, and their son Harry. He then thanked his viewers, saying, "There's nothing I could ever do to repay you."
Fox Radio's Michelle Polino. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
The news reports this morning tell us that Superintendent Rick Smith of Hamilton County Public Schools is not getting a warm reception and did not get same at yesterday's meeting before the Hamilton County Commissioners. He's asking for $34 million more. The budget, I think, is about $350 million. The operating expense of the school system is past $400 million a year, based on last year's accounting of numbers in the 2014 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which I take a look at when I can. He says, we're asking for additional revenue. They'll have to figure out how to fund that revenue if they choose to. There's in that quote on TV3's website by Vince Lennon, there's a sort of deference that he has in his obeisance before the commission, which doesn't regulate what he does as a state actor, but which provides the money with which he can pay for the rent and pay the salaries for 6,000 people, and operate a cartel which does not have to respond to the public, to the pretended consumer, which of course we would say is the family or the parents. These are in fact not the client of his system. It is the state itself. And he has a quote that when I read it, I think, you know, the way Dr. Smith phrases this, he's also making a case that you would hear it. Let me tell you what he said, according to Vince Lennon's report on TV3. He says, if we don't take care of our children, we're going to pay a price for that later. And so it's time for us to have this conversation in this community. Well, when you make a general statement about how important education is and how vital it is to the future and how it is an investment in children and in families, and it helps, we want to have an intelligent electorate. Do we not want to have people who know how to read, who know how to vote, who know how to be responsible, who know how to make the right choices, as they say in the model of morality that's taught in public schools? It's kind of a pragmatic theory. We want our children to be successful. We want them to get jobs. Of course, that seems to be the way the school story is played out in the press. The main goal of schools is so that people can get jobs. It's somehow a job preparation program, which is, in the end, that's a very low, I would say, a very low ranked desiderata, a very low ranked thing to desire of a school or a school system. It should have a much higher goal. It should be, in the end, it should be religious. It should be that the school makes men and women who emerge from its hallways and classrooms and rows of desks to make them more intelligent, more caring, more knowledgeable, less likely to be deceived, right? To be able to analyze rhetoric, to analyze political promises, to know, for example, our system of government. You can't learn our system of government just by learning how a bill emerges, how it goes from one house to the other, how spending bills have to come from the House and not the Senate, and things like that. Those are often important, but knowing how those works on paper is not the truth of politics. Well, schools are supposed to make men free. It is supposed to help them find their true genius and to prepare them not just for getting employment, which of course is being a servant. Schools, I would hope, would help people to become masters, and masters, that would be the capitalist, that would be the investor, that would be, that's right, that's the owner, right? The owner is the person a school system, you would hope, would create, not simply a master, a servant. Don't forget, employment is, if you look up employment in any legal dictionary, it describes a master-servant relationship, and everybody who goes to school to get employment is simply wanting to be a servant, and that's all that is. And of course, in the Bible, the word servant or slave are virtually interchangeable. A man's servant often was his slave, and a slave was a servant because he served his master. So we have slavery as part of the human condition. We can't escape it. We can't avoid it. No matter how vigorous the egalitarians argue for it, there are rankings of ability, right? You have rankings of ability of calling, and some men are called to high office and high authority, and others are not, and others are called to be to serve others, right? To serve large groups of people. And the entrepreneur breaches that he kind of deals with that problem by saying, I'm going to be a master by being a servant, and that's what every businessman is. And that's, if you go into business for yourself, you'll find that. If you go, for example, and talk with Bruce Krebs about being an owner, well, he will get you into a franchise, and you become an owner of a business, often a local rep of somebody else's business, someone else's concern, and you serve them. But you are the owner of that franchise, and you're the owner of that business. How do you become successful? Well, by constantly serving, right? You're constantly serving your market, your customers and your clients. And by the way, Bruce Krebs' number at Entrepreneur Source is 875-5621. That's 875-5621. And I think you should call him. You, my listener, if you're working for somebody else and do not have a plan B, call Bruce Krebs today and make an appointment. He will help you find a business of some kind now. And it has to be done now, because when the crisis hits, it'll be too late. You need to get something going in the way of plan B today. 875-5621. Well, the school board quote, the school board chief, the school board's chief's quote is that we have to take care of children. We're not going to pay. He says, we're going to pay the price for that later. And so it's time for us to have this conversation. In other words, he wants to raise taxes, but he's also kind of appealing to the general goodwill of people and the human beings on the county commission. He wants you to make it kind of a transference, right? Transference from, yes, we want to support children, to, without you really realizing it, to, we need to have more taxes. Well, the marketplace makes the same argument, and it says this: if we don't take care of our children, we're going to pay the price for that later. In other words, if we don't give our children the very best, which is something that we pay for personally, then we are going to be paying the price later, and we need to have this conversation now. I agree. We need to have the conversation now, and that is, are we going to let the marketplace have a say in education, or are we going to consume the education capital that's in this county and give it to people who don't have to perform? Bureaucracies do not have to perform. They do not by design have to feel marketplace pressures, right? They don't have to respond to market. What do they respond to? They respond to rules. They respond to policies, which are from sources well beyond our good-natured local doctor or superintendent. The policies he enforces are not his own. He is not a super by any means. He's just a functionary, a kind of a face. He's a face on a faceless system of educational bureaucracy that has its tendrils reaching toward it from Washington and think tanks in Princeton and Yale and other places. And people connected with Bill Gates's educational initiatives and many other do-gooders and sort of soft policy wonks who are behind the machinery. And we want to have, here in local economy, we want to have a free market. We would like to have it so that the capital that is consumed, $400 million a year to operate this system, that it would be freed. What would you do? What would all your friends do, my listener, if that amount of money were suddenly available for investing in schools, investing in all kinds of arrangements that are figured out by private people, often who are going to be using the internet, right? They're going to have, they're not going to have capital requirements for land and buildings, which in the future, as Rhonda Thurman supposes, will be empty because the marketplace will have shifted away from the state sector. The state needs to quit investing in this kind of architecture and in capital investments. Notice how there's the state's kind of is gambling on both sides of the market, right? It's gambling the market will rise, and it's gambling the market will fall. It's gambling that the market in education, in schooling, will fall because it has its own virtual academy. If you have a virtual academy, is that not kind of an implicit condemnation of your brick and mortar structure? Do they work together? Well, no, they're completely at odds. Each contains a vision of the marketplace that is contradictory. The marketplace is in fact going in the direction of virtual. It's going in the direction of individuated care and service to families and to students. And the trend is away from centralization. We are in the era of decentralization, and people who are doing things on their shoestrap operations, right? Well, in the way of shoestrap operations, I want to mention Louis. Louis runs a car lot, and because he runs AutoMax with a very small he has a very small business, kind of hard to see there. He's just past Central High School on Highway 58. You might not even see it in passing by. But he has AutoMax, which is an unpretentious little car lot, which has no staff. It's just him and his wife, and Louis does everything. He buys, he cleans, he makes repairs, he deals with customers, he handles the website, he does everything. And because he does everything himself, as a small businessman often has to, he has the lowest prices. So you look at a car at AutoMax, and it's going to be $2,000 less than virtually the same vehicle on another used car lot. Think about that if you're looking for a car for your son or daughter. And if you have your son or daughter make the purchase in his or her name, you can have that student getting credit, because all loans through AutoMax are reported to the credit reporting agencies, and so your son can build credit. So think about buying a car from Louis at AutoMax. The number is 643-2886. But better yet, don't call him. Just show up. Just go there, and you'll find him a man of character, a man of scruples, a very open, friendly person. And I would like you to think about giving him your business. Well, small is better than big, and AutoMax is part of that theory. That's why he's our man for cars here at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. Decentralization it works better than centralization, even though, of course, large businesses and large enterprises can buy using the theory of economy of scale. I understand that, but there are places for the small operator, and education is one where the small operator has remarkable success. I believe I've been an educational secessionist my whole life, and before I met my wife Jeanette, I said I'm going to marry a girl who wants to homeschool, and I'm not marrying a girl who doesn't want to home educate our children. I would like to have many children, I said to myself, somewhat wistfully. And I married, I think it was about 34. So I married a little bit late. Took me a while to find my sweetheart. We have 4 children, and all have been educated at home. And, you know, we both have advanced degrees. So you might say, well, I have an unfair advantage, and it's somehow unjust that I can do that. But no, even you, my listener, even if you have just a high school education, if you and your wife love your children, you can do what I have done. And the marketplace for that line of endeavor is remarkable. It's remarkable. Every July, for example, here in Chattanooga, we have the Home Education Expo, which I'm involved in every year. And the resources are phenomenal and suited to fit your needs. Just like AutoMax fits your needs. He's a small operator. He can fit your needs and be supple in the marketplace, and has lower costs. Private is cheaper than public, always, and it's always that way. And so we have to agree with Dr. Smith, who says, if you don't take care of our children, we're going to pay a price for that later. I agree with that. And because I agree with the good doctor, we need to have a free market in schooling, and that's going to be a long process. Don't be disheartened that we're not there yet. It'll take probably several decades for the marketplace to catch up to this area, which is ingrained in the public mind. We have public education because we have been taught to have it by its existence since the 1840s and 60s. And it's not going to go away anytime soon. It will fall apart from disuse, just as the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, will be. Its folly, its ridiculous position of trying to regulate the internet is going to become more and more obvious over time. You may have authority, you may have legal authority, surveillance authority, tax authority, policing authority in a particular agency, but its real influence will be marginal, and the marketplace always goes around the obstacle. It always goes around it, especially on the internet. You cannot regulate something like that. You cannot regulate schooling. You cannot have a state school and think that it's going to be worth anything. It will continue to decline. Its results have been pitiful for decades, despite OBE, despite workplace improvements that are supposed to help students to be made ready for work. All these reforms are sham reforms. They are ersatz. They are not genuine reforms because they don't go to the fundamental issue, which is to say that there's no parental choice, there's no free market. The people who pay for the system are stuck in it. Tim Boyd is a commissioner, and he tells in the story in the Chattanoogan.com this morning, he said $11 million of the request was going for raises for some 6,000 people. He said he liked the superintendent's vision, but he said he wanted to hear specific plans for helping students. Marty Haynes said the government was being asked to pick up costs that the community, including churches, once helped provide. And the point by Commissioner Haynes is, I think, important. He's pointing out that when you have a consumption of capital by a cartel, by a monopoly, what that does, it sucks oxygen out of the marketplace. It sucks oxygen out of the room. So it's harder for others to breathe. They can't breathe because the oaf in the middle of the room, whose head is not so big he's knocked over the chandelier and his diaper's leaking, he hasn't left much room for other people or other doings. The sofa's been crushed, the futon is in pieces, and the coffee table has been shattered into 100 pieces on the ground with the dictionary on top of it. Well, that picture is what we have, and we need to understand that schools, that public systems consume capital. They eat capital. They engorge themselves on capital that otherwise should be available for the marketplace. And so the county school is asking for another $7 million. I want to mention that if you are tired of centralized systems, if you're tired of state solutions and corporate solutions, eat out at a locally owned restaurant. Eat out at a place like Delia's, authentic Mexican restaurant in South Saudi Daisy. If you're a German, if you happen to be new in the country, go to Delia's to find out what Americans enjoy when they hunt for an eatery for south of the border fare. South of the border, that's Delia's authentic Mexican food in Saudi Daisy. She's on Dayton Pike. It's owned by Maria Hernandez, a Mexican immigrant who loves being in her new country. She's right near the Thrasher Light. The special today is Thursday. Is the taco platter number 28. Number 28 on the menu, and that's $1 off. It's $4.99. Just tell the waiter, or the waitress that you are the radio listener, and insist that he make note of your comment. Okay, don't let it slip by. Say, well, listen, I listened on the radio and I heard about you on the radio. Make a point of it. Okay, say it twice. He may not quite understand you since his lingo may not be the best. So just say it twice. Make sure that he makes note of it. Okay, and you'll get a free iced tea. Mention Hot News Talk Radio, and you will get. Just mention the radio and you will get a free iced tea, and you can even get it unsweetened. Okay, but you're being sweet to do that on my behalf, and I appreciate that because that's how we make a living here at Hot News Talk Radio. We survive, we make a living, we prosper even by connecting small businesses with people like you, well-intentioned people who are sick and tired of national economy, sick and tired of the national narrative. There's a story that I'm just noticing on TV3, which the headline is "Police Cadets Immersed with Black, Hispanic, Gay, Disabled Communities." It's an interesting story because I have the idea that the lug butt angle is what's really the most important thing in this corporate body. The police, Chattanooga Police Department, of course, is a military body. It's kind of threatening the authority, I'd say, of Jim Hammond, the sheriff. The sheriff is the most important man in the county. Jim Hammond is the most important person in Hamilton County because he's the sheriff, is a constitutional office. He has military authority and police authority. It's a very, very high office. I think most people underestimate that he is the Shire Reef. He is the caretaker of the Shire, right? That's where his name comes from. Police chiefs such as Fred Fletcher are just hirelings, right? These are corporation actors, and they are a kind of military occupation for us. And you know that that's true because to them, you, my listener, you're just a civilian, right? You're a civilian, and that's because they are part of the occupation of the modern police mentality. But the story is at TV3's website about the let's see, it's the community immersion program, and you're dealing with minorities. So somehow it's thought that you have to have special training in dealing with black people. Wow, as if people around here haven't dealt with black people if they're white all their lives, or if they're black, haven't dealt with white people all their lives. And yet blacks are named here. They're called African Americans, Hispanics, and then lug butt, and then disabled mental health. Well, there's something here that bothers me a little bit. Chief Fletcher says this program was designed to give the community voice and to teach future police officers to learn how to learn, what he said, to learn how to learn about the community. There is a platinum rule that we want our public servants to treat people the way they want to be treated. Well, there's something more here, and I'm not able to put my finger on it, but I think that it connects with the lug butt argument. The lug butts, LGBTQ, right? The lug butt queer world, which it has been in the last year. The market gay shares peaked last summer. Okay, we're on a plateau right now in the valuation of these shares, but they will be going down either precipitously, though there will be a kind of a rally, a kind of I don't know what to call it, a second head rally, or there'll be some kind of rally in the shares of gay shares that will happen if gay shares get a nod from the high court. I don't think the Yankees on that, the 9 Yankees on that court are going to go along with gay marriage. I think that they're going to respect the Constitution and the rights of the people to make their own decisions about this. But in case they don't, in case they're shanghaied by they're led astray by the swing vote Judge Kennedy, there'll be a kind of a brief rally in gay shares. But then, as the pogrom begins, it'll be about 5 years of hell, where there'll be intense warfare against free speech, even on the national level. Shares of gay shares will go down. They will go down, down, down. And I want to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, okay? But you need to hang on here at Nuganomics.com. My name is David Toulis, and our show is Nuganomics.com. Go to Nuganomics.com, the website. There's an important essay that came out today. Is drawn a huge interest, which is to say, a couple people, because it explains the long-term view of those parties involved in spraying nanoparticulate metals in the atmosphere, creating our aerial plasma. Have you noticed the aerial plasma? Even on bright days, that plasma is there, turning the sun into a blinding disk. The fact that the sun blinds you is new.